Okay, here we have the BRM, the new 512. This is the red kit. We're going to get this out of the box and we're going to build it. First off, obviously, comes partially built. You've got the chassis partially assembled, the pod. The body's been painted by BRM, and we're going to assemble the rest of it over a period of several quick little videos. Okay, cut. So we have this photo etched part in here. We've got the two side pieces. BRM have been generous. They've given us 3 straps. These straps fit on here and one on the other side. There's only 2. And then the filler cap, which would fit here, which on the red Ferrari filler cap's going to go here. One of the straps will go there, and the other one, I haven't glued these in yet, so let them fall back out, is going to go here. Rear view mirror is going to go up on the roof there. The hole in the bodywork was so as the driver could look through and see out of the mirror. It's going to go up there. We have the 2 rear flippers that go on the rear deck here. We have headlight lenses which are going to go in, exhaust detail, we have the windshield, rubberized windshield wiper. Actually, this is not rubberized. On the Sunoco's they are. This is hard on this one. Maybe there's one in the kit here. We'll go through all of this in a minute. Driver figure. Okay, we'll pause for a minute. Okay, I have a little bit of super glue here. We're putting super glue behind these details. Just get a little bit on with a knife. And then I'm using Instacure. It's a good glue. You have to make sure that the detail, because there's detail on one side of these photo etch and not on the other. I'm going to carefully slide it in position, and then we'll let it dry. So we've glued in these, we've glued in this, we've glued in the front and these side pieces. On these pieces I get them in position, and then I carefully float a little bit of glue down in the seams to get good saturation without it coming out the other side. If I was using this for racing my own, I'd probably use shoe glue on most of these areas so as they would survive an impact, but this one's being built for a customer, so we'll do this one a little bit more like a modeler. Yeah, so that's the start of gluing the pieces on. Next we'll put in the glass, the motor detail or exhaust detail, and the rear lights, and then we're ready to start building the chassis. Okay, I'll take my goggles off. I decided I will do a little bit of reinforcing on this, so there's some shoe glue here, around here, a little bit of shoe glue here just on the end of there. I did glue them on first with super glue. Little dab of shoe glue down in here, little piece of shoe glue along here, just in an impact it'll stop that from getting broken in, and that's it. I mean, shoe glue, there it is. It's great because it's a rubberized compound, so it adds a lot of strength to the joint, and there's most of the body now together. Okay, I've got the interior now in place, ready to glue in. I'm going to shoe glue here, bit in there, and a piece on the back here. These clips are invaluable for doing this. Then I'm going to put the body aside to let the shoe glue dry while I work on these bags of pieces to assemble the chassis. Okay, now we have the shoe glue in place, here, and here. Clipped on. We'll set this aside and let it dry. We'll move on to our chassis assembly. Alright, here we have the BRM wheels that are going to go together. Front wheels, rear wheels, beauty rings, inserts, and the little center nut that goes obviously in the center of each wheel. These inserts will drop in place, and the beauty ring is pushed in to hold them in situ. Almost impossible to get that beauty ring back out once you put it in. It's just a force fit in there, so you probably won't be able to get those inserts out again. You could mount foam on these rims. This is the same rim design as this. Obviously this is a bigger hub, or is it? Let me check that. Could be an optical illusion. It is not a bigger hub. So this is a 917 sponge tyre. It's going to have slightly different inserts. As I know the gentleman who I'm building this for is going to race it, we're going to put the 917 rears with their simpler insert. There will be a Ferrari insert like this as well, just a simple push in, and I'm going to build these others to mount the rubber tyres for the static look of the car when he's not racing. Okay, here's two of the wheels assembled. I've got lowered fronts on them. The rears, we're going to put the standard rears because these are going to be left as show wheels, and you can see that certainly is a show wheel, but that wheel is not one piece. It's this insert, this rim, and this beauty ring. This piece is aluminum. I've glued it in from the back, just tacked it in. So to assemble these, you drop the insert in and the beauty ring goes on, and then be prepared to hurt your hands. You push the beauty ring in, you won't get it back out. It traps the insert, and you have to admit that that is a staggering looking wheel, especially once you mount the big huge rubber tyre that these cars would have run. These tyres only go one way. They have a rim or a rib, but it's inboard. This allows you to also mount sponge on them. We didn't on these because I wanted to give the customer his standard wheels. They look the part. They even come with a little rub-on decal for Goodyear and Eagles for the tyres. I'll let the customer do that. So these are going to go on the front of the race car. These are going to go in his box along with the standard profile tyres, very slightly taller. Every little bit helps, and he can have those. Okay, I know a lot of these bits and pieces are going to be confusing, so what I do is I start putting the ones I know in their places. So we've got the short 3mm grub screws in here and in here. There would also be two in the wheels we're not going to use. We've also put a, oh, didn't mean to drop that, long grub screw in the base of here. That is one of these long ones. We'll take care to get it square and then screw it all the way in. It's going to be what traps the front axle bushing, which just fell out of the other one. Screw it all the way in. These go with the flange on the outside, and then a small one is going to go down from the top. Okay, so I'm mounting the short screw in the top on these uprights. I'll screw it until I just start seeing it crowning through the top of the bracket. There it is. And we'll put this insert in, and then we'll wind the other one up to contain it. We don't want it falling out. There it is. Don't over tighten these. I mean, it is a injection molded piece. You can break them if you are brutal with them. They're just location pieces. They don't need to be wound up solid, and if you do that, you're liable to clamp the brass bushing down and distort it. Okay, so these pieces are the uprights. You've got some tuning springs, spacers for front and rear axles. This piece is the front guide post, which mounts in here, and as we found out when racing these in Italy, I recommend you Loctite this in once you've decided what guide to rear axle length you want. There is a small 0.95 grub screw in there, so you get that set. You have some adjustment in length, obviously. Don't have it. I would go. You've probably got about 1/8 of an inch before you're likely to cause any problems to yourself. but I would Loctite this grub screw in once you're happy with the way the car handles. Otherwise you'll cause all sorts of handling issues for yourself if that screw comes loose. Alright, so grub screws for the racing guide. This screw goes in the top of the racing guide. There is a spring for the racing guide. I don't use it. There should be 4 Phillips screws. I've got 2 here, another 2 over here. Those are the ones that screw these uprights. They go this way round onto the underside of the chassis. And there's 2 screws here. You've got a hole here so as you can adjust your front axle. These 2 are pegs. The pegs are on here. That's an alignment peg for there, so you get that in place. When you're doing all that up, put an axle in to align everything. Okay, I'll come back in a minute and show you that. Okay, I've got the uprights assembled now onto the front axle, and I've got the screws lightly in place. I've put, if you look at these spacers here, you get 3 of this spacer, 2 very thin ones, and then 2 tall and 1 medium. Most of those are going to be used on the back axle, so we've got one of these on each side here, and then I'm using that to align the uprights, and then what I'm going to do is slowly tighten these screws. Let's turn it over so you can see what I'm doing, and just snug them down lightly at first. By keeping pressure on the axle, I'm keeping the whole front end square. They're countersunk screws, CNC machined. So now we should have a front axle in situ. We can tighten them down a little bit more and over tighten them, but you don't want them falling out. What we usually do is put a little bit of Scotch tape over these here just to prevent them falling out. Also these 2 here, which were assembled at the factory, which are the guide and pivot point mount. Okay, so if you just a little bit of clear tape over here, stop those falling out in a race. Tighten them down. You are screwing into injection nylon, so don't be too brutal. Because it's screwing into nylon, I personally would not recommend using Loctite. I've seen Loctite attack some of these glass reinforced nylon type plastics, but that's your choice. Then later on we can set up the front axle height, etc. But right now that's that part assembled. Okay, I've got the wires in now and they're tightened. I've left them above the axle. As I say, from the factory they go through these cavities here. I'm not keen on that idea myself. It's a good idea in theory, but it means the wires can be restricted, which can age them quicker. I'm also finding that this O-ring trick, which works on the Group C cars, isn't really working to my liking here, so I'm taking that back out, and we're just going to go with the screw down into the cavity here. I guess why it doesn't work on this so well is because the O-ring spreads out in the cavity and causes a lot of stiction on the sidewalls. So we'll screw this down in here, all the way down, snug it down. It is going to mean we're going to probably need a few more shims, because I think even with that tightened, yeah, I've got more play than I like. So we'll do that quickly while we're here. Let's see how many shims we need. Then obviously we set the guide ride height with the front axle. So that's with 2 shims now. That was the BRM 030 shims. No, that's not right. 0.03, that's correct. The part number is not 030. The part number is 26SB. 0.03 of a millimeter shims. Okay, let's see. 2 of them now. Where does that get us? Don't over tighten this. Again, you're only tightening into a nylon guide. We don't want to strip the guide out. That's pretty good. We'll give it a try. If we need to adjust, we can. Okay, so that's the front of the car done. Obviously we're going to see if these wires cause any problem once we assemble the body. I would strategically tape them down here. I like the idea of them being like this because they're not restricted, but we'll give that a try and we'll see where we go. Okay, so there we are mounted. We've still got to adjust the front wheels down. You can see they're way up in the air right now, part of the setup. But there is completed Ferrari. And we've got the spare springs over here, extra braid, extra spacers, guide spacers, and I didn't use the long spacer on the axles. Some extra O-rings, and a car. That's it. I haven't put the rear winglets on. I'll leave that for the customer to do. They are delicate. Yes, they have to be on in a race. We'll probably try and fabricate a way of mounting them with foam. Anyway, there we go. BRM 512.